All right, very good morning, everyone. We are going to continue today the presentations of a student project looking at proteomics data analysis. Today is the fourth series of these presentations. Today's presenters are going to talk about different applications of how proteomics can be utilized to understand different meaningful biological questions or clinical questions. And the first project will be essentially about looking at CH cell and paclitaxel effect of that. This is one of the inhibitors to look at the cervical cancer. Other project is about colon adenocarcinoma, CAC, and looking at global proteome analysis. Third project is about meningioma, another brain tumor. Fourth project is about non-functional pituitary adenomas. And fifth project is also about cervical cancer and effect of another drug, cisplatin. Given that some of you have sent the video a little late and things have been shuffled, so the orders are not going to be exactly same what is listed here. We are going to first start with Rajesh Kumar, who is going to talk about low-grade meningioma versus high-grade meningioma to understand the what are the biological alteration happening in this particular tumor. Meningioma is one of the most prevalent brain tumors. Although the mortality and the aggressiveness is not as high as the glioma or glioblastoma, but this remains one of the most prevalent brain tumors. We work very closely with the Tata Memorial clinicians, and this is one of the highly prevalent tumors. So it will be really interesting to know that when the meningioma tumor progresses from the low grade to the high grade, what kind of proteins leading to which type of biological pathways are actually being mapped, and can that give us some clues about aggressiveness of these tumor, or could be potential grade-wise marker, or looking at even possible prognosis of the tumor. So let's see how Rajesh Kumar has addressed some of these questions in his presentation.
Good morning, one and all. Myself Rajesh Kumar Ko, and I am going to present on my proteomics project topic, that is global proteomics analysis of low-grade meningioma versus high-grade meningioma samples to decipher the biological alteration. So let's start with the basic introduction of the meningioma. That is the meningiomas are the most common type of brain tumor. It is formed in the meninges region of the brain, and it is about 80% of the cases that are considered as low grade, which can be usually cured by surgery. But if the meningiomas spread to other areas of the CNS through CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, then it may lead to severity increase. Then the severity increases. Some of the common symptoms of the meningiomas are vision changes, loss of hearing or smell, confusion, and sometimes it may lead to seizures. To get an accurate diagnosis, a piece of tumor tissue is removed by the surgeons during the surgery, and it is processed for tissue histopathology. It can be treated by using radiation therapy if the tumor has reached to the malignancy. Okay, so some of the stats of this meningioma are 371 estimated people are diagnosed per year out of the 2692 people who are the carriers of this disease, among which 368 people belong to the adult age group, that is 15 plus. So I started off my proteomics project by the given data set, that is the MAX1 data set, and thereby processed to the Metabo analyst, where I did various statistical analysis, thereby processed the results to the gene expression analysis and pathway analysis by reactome and string, and thereby verified that from the literature and accordingly interpreted. Started off with the Metabo analyst. Here I uploaded my data and processed the data. I got 39.4% missing values which were detected after processing it. So here uh, the missing values may be due to the sample contamination or several instrument issues. The missing values here were estimated using KNN feature-wise, and the features with 30% missing values were removed. That is only value 70% values 70% values were processed for further analysis. So after that, normalization was performed in order to normalize run-to-run in order to normalize run-to-run variation due to the repeated use of the instruments, which may be leading to the calibration errors. So therefore, log transformation was performed and the normalization was done by median. So central tendencies were aligned accordingly. Missing value imputation and normalization, we started off with the statistical analysis, that is the PCA, that is principal component analysis. It is a type of non-supervised clustering method. It is used for determining the variation between the two clusters. Here it is high grade and the low grade. The distinct clusters only show they show two distinct clusters, only one outlier here shown, and the clusters assigned by us shows some biological significance. Thereafter, PLSTA analysis was performed. It is a special type of clustering, supervised clustering method. Here, two different clusters were seen when 2D scores plot was performed. By using this value, VIP scores were generated, and top proteins which showed maximum variation when two clusters were compared was like this P14136. After that, t-test was performed. T-test is basically a parametric test from the graph significant from here the graph. So next we'll see the t-test analysis here. It is a type of parametric test, and here the group variance is set as unequal, and the p threshold value is set to 0.05. Okay. From the graph, significant proteins crossing this p threshold value were identified. That is here 87 proteins were significant proteins that crossed the p threshold value, and these were considered for analysis. So moving on to the FCA, that is the fold change analysis. Here the fold change threshold is set to 2, and the direction of comparison is high grade to low grade. So here we can see from the plot fold chain analysis, it is carried in order to understand how proteins were affected in two samples, whether they were upregulated or down-regulated. Here, 97 proteins were seen to be upregulated and 298 proteins were seen to be down-regulated, whereas 1,746 proteins did not cross the threshold limit on this analysis. So, data from the last two analysis, that is the fold chain analysis and the t-test, were taken in volcano plot. The further proteins are from origin. Origin, the most significant they are in respect to both the fold chain and the p-values. So top 42 proteins were considered for further analysis. Here, 8 proteins were seen to be upregulated and 34 proteins were seen to be downregulated. And these top proteins were then considered for further analysis via using reactome and string. In order to represent the data analysis carried out so far, Metabo analyst, heat map was generated and considered for up to top 25 differentially upregulated proteins. Here we can see the heat map of it. So next we started off with the reactome analysis. Here we analyzed the pathways on the basis of the data obtained from the volcano plot, which is used as an input here. It depicts the pathway depicts all the pathways crossing the P threshold value that is set as 0.05, and the proteins that the pathways that are highlighted in yellow are the pathways that cross the threshold limit, and the 3 highlighted regions were taken for further analysis, that is immune system, metabolism, and gene transcription. Further reactome analysis was performed for gene expression analysis. Here we got the similar diagram, but it shows how pathways are distributed, whether it is represented by the yellow, or whether it is down-regulated, which is depicted by a blue. So here is the list of the top upregulated pathways from the reactome, like RNA, gene transcription by RNA polymerase. It showed upregulation, whereas this immune system pathway, interferon gamma signaling showed downregulation, and in this metabolism path, dermatan sulfate biosynthesis showed downregulation. So next we performed a string analysis from top proteins obtained from the volcano plot in order to see how these proteins are interacting with one another. We can see here in this diagram. Okay, so next we did the data interpretation on the basis of the top 3 differentially expressed pathways, that is gene expression, that is transcription. Here the RNA polymerase 3 gene elongation and RNA polymerase 3 transcription initiation shows upregulation. This is obtained from the proteome analysis, and here we can reactome analysis, and this is the pathway representation of it. So it was confirmed from these 2 papers that there was due to the over gene expression and the increase in the levels of the RNA polymerase lead to benign meningioma, and in certain case it lead to the formation of the aggressive tumors. Next, next pathway chosen was immune system. Here, interferon gamma signaling showed down regulation. The down regulation of interferon gamma signaling may result in the suppression of the immune and thereby may cause the severe increase the severity of the meningioma. It was confirmed from these two papers, the interferon, the decrease in the interferon expression around the down regulation causes several type of meningiomas, severe meningiomas. So this is the representation of the reactome analysis, and the third pathway which I chosen was the metabolism pathway. There was decrease in the metabolism of the dermatan sulfate biosynthesis. The down regulation of it resulted in the increase in the severity of the meningioma. Several expression analysis was performed, and it was concluded that its role in meningioma or the malignant cancer in the neuronal cells. So, at last, I would like to conclude with the discussion that meta-analysis was used to generate a list of top 42 differentially expressed proteins considering the fold chain and the p-values. These top 42 proteins were then analyzed using reactome and string for pathway analysis, which gave some interesting insights. Gene expression, that is transcription, metabolism, and immune system were among the top two differentially upregulated pathways. Meningioma patients showed higher expression of RNA polymerase, which may lead to thereby increase in the protein levels and thereby promote metastasis, invasion, and proliferation. Immune system shows these regulation and thereby may lead to mental disorders. Immunotherapy can be a potential treatment method here. High-grade meningioma is severe, and therefore its treatment can be done by designing some inhibitors that may block some particular pathway and thereby may lower the severeness of this disease. So these were some of the references which I used.
All right, Rajesh, are you there? Can we talk to you? Please unmute yourself. I'll set up a timer for 3 minutes. I can't hear anybody. I hope I am audible. TAs, can you confirm?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Rajesh Kumar is in the students here available, or he only sent his video? All right, I don't see Rajesh Kumar here, which is very unfortunate. So I'll just give my comments here. I'm sure you can see in the recording. Rajesh, are you there? If you're there, please speak.
Sir, he is facing network issue.
If he's facing network issue, can you ask him to call me on my phone?
Sure, sir.
I hope he has my phone number. He can call me on my number, and I can take Q&A here directly. Jyoti, do you know how much time it's going to take? Because we cannot stop the class time like this.
Sorry, sir, he is not reachable at the moment.
All right. So under situation, we cannot assign the mark for the discussion part, and I'll see what to consider. Rajesh, just to give some comments, you can watch in the recording later on. I think project was done in the correct workflow, the kind of analysis which you did looked okay. Presentation was definitely not well prepared. So this looked to me a mock presentation which we do for practice, not the actual presentation which should be recorded. So please, you and others should make sure that use this forum also to practice your presentation and improve your professional skill of speaking and presenting, because these are small opportunities for you to boost your confidence about well presentation and in the given time how you can show your knowledge as well as your project. So it was a lot of fumbling in the speaking and many issues which I see during the presentation. Additionally, there was no clarity in terms of the grade wise comparison, that when you are comparing low grade versus high grade, your understanding from the RNA polymerase or looking at interferon signaling, or you talked about metabolism, dermaton sulfate, none of those were clear in terms of how it can be useful if you are going to look at the grade wise comparison, because the grades, and you are going to compare, you have to tell that how that could be relevant from the low grade to high grade. So our findings or the biological understanding has to be in the context of the question which you have started. When you are comparing, let's say, healthy individuals with the meningioma tumors, then there's a different question, because then you are only looking at what is changing in meningioma. When you are comparing within meningioma tumor two type of grades, then your objective is different. You are looking at what is changing from the low grade versus high grade. So therefore, the pathway understanding, biological understanding has to be discussed in that context, which is also quite missing out. One more question I had for you was regarding heat map. Was that the supervised clustering done or unsupervised clustering done? You can write some of these responses and email me back. Finally, I wanted to know from you that missing value, what other considerations you gave to make the better plot when you had 43% missing value. How best you can also look at each type of grade separately, and can you do some better imputation as well. These are some points for you. So let's now move on to the next presenter. All right, so we will now have Satadru Chakrabarti going to talk about non-functional pituitary adenomas. This is something very new project which is looking at different type of pituitary tumors, and this is going to be quite interesting even for the scientific community to learn more about this type of tumors and what happens when you compare them with the controls. So let's hear this presentation now.
Today I am going to present on global proteomic analysis of NFPA versus control sample to decipher the biological alteration. Pituitary adenoma accounts for the 15% of brain tumor, which is next to meningioma, and it is mostly benign and slow growing. Pituitary adenoma can be of two types. One is functional pituitary adenoma, which is associated with hypersecretion of hormone from anterior pituitary cells, and the other one is non-functional pituitary adenoma, which is not related with hormonal hypersecretion. It accounts for 22 to 54% of total pituitary adenoma. NFPA can be silent pituitary adenoma, in which the hormone secretion still occurs from the anterior pituitary, and it can also be non-cell adenoma where the hormone secretion is totally stopped. NFP has different subtypes based on their histological origin. Among these four subtypes, the gonadotroph is the most prevalent, which are associated with synthesizing of luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormone. The symptoms associated with NFP are found to be headache, visual impairment, cranial nerve dysfunction. The symptoms occur due to the mass effect. The larger size of the tumor generate pressure in surrounding tissue, which are responsible for these symptoms. It is mostly diagnosed in later stage. NFP diagnosis is done based on MRI, and this NFPA can be on smaller size, which is microadenoma, and be of larger size, which is macroadenoma, and which leads to visual dysfunction. This NFPA is not exactly associated with any type of hormone hypersecretion, so it is difficult to diagnose at early stage. Detailed proteomic based analysis of biological alteration will help us to identify which can be potential biomarker or therapeutic target. The data was first processed using MaxPORN, and this MaxPORN data was subjected to meta-analysis for normalization. This dataset contains total 54 samples, among which 45 from NFPA and 9 from control, including both anterior and posterior pituitary. Total 5234 peaks was present and no PC value was found. Beside normalization, in meta-analysis, t-test, Volcano plot, and several other tests were done. And the differential expressed protein based on this t-test and Volcano plot were subjected to Panther, Metascape, David Bioinformatics for further analysis, and this normalized data was subjected to reactome to identify the top upregulated and top down-regulated pathways. The normalization was done based on median, and data was log transformed before going to further analysis. The correlation heat map shows the samples are highly correlated. Besides that, the different control samples also found to be correlated with one another. The heat map shows the proteins which are significantly upregulated in case of control sample got down-regulated in NFPA, and the down-regulated proteins in control sample got upregulated. But this is not the consistent pattern, as the pattern is quite different in the total 45 NFPA samples. This indicates the samples are quite heterogeneous and may be of different subtypes. The fold change analysis using cutoff of 2 identified 276 significantly downregulated protein, while 548 are significantly upregulated. The other cutoffs was also tried, but we finally proceeded with cutoff using 2. The t-test using p-value threshold of 0.05, a total 969 protein was found to be significant. Based on the Volcano plot using fold change threshold of 2 and p-value threshold of 0.05, total 236 protein to be significantly downregulated, while 344 significantly upregulated. The dataset was then subjected to principal component analysis, in which the total, the first 5 principal component account for 36.3%, which shows that sample is quite variable. After plotting the PCA1 versus PCA2, no outlier was found, so proceeded with this data. Based on the VIP score, the plotting was done in meta-analysis, in which the protein concentration was found to be significantly altered in comparison between control and NFPA samples. The most altered protein was vasopressin neurophysin 2-O15, which is the precursor for ADH hormone biosynthesis secreted from the posterior pituitary. The somatotropin, which is the growth hormone from anterior pituitary, also significantly downregulated, Leuotropin, subunit beta, thyrotropin, and subunit beta, melanocortin, which is the precursor for ACTH, and glycoprotein subunit alpha. These are the precursor for anterior pituitary hormones, which got significantly downregulated in case of NFPA samples, and this YRDC domain containing protein got significantly upregulated in case of NFPA. Based on the fold change in volcano plot, top 15 upregulated and top 15 downregulated proteins were identified. The YRDC domain containing protein was found to be the most upregulated one, and next is the elongation factor like GLPO1. This box plot shows the expression of YRDC domain containing protein, which some samples shows very high upregulation, and the vasopressin neurophysin 2,450 is the most downregulated one, and this shows that in NFPA samples this is found to be significantly lower. And besides that, the somatotropin, leuotropin, subunit beta, which are associated with anterior pituitary hormone secretion, got significantly lowered. The differential express protein based on the t-test was subjected to Panther analysis, which shows that proteins are found to altered in which are associated with different types of molecular function, among which the most are associated with binding and catalytic activity. They are involved in wide range of biological process. Most are found to be biological regulation, cellular process, and also metabolic process. Proteins are part of wide range of cellular component, from cellular anatomical entity to intercellular and protein containing complex, and it is the proteins are of different class, in which most are found to be associated with metabolic enzymes. The significantly altered protein expression with significantly altered protein are found subjected to Metascape analysis. Among the 969 proteins, they are found to be associated with wide range of basic biological processes like neutrophil degranulation, translation, vesicle mediated transport, metabolism of RNA, and the volcano plot, which found to be 580 proteins, also subjected to Metascape, which also showed altered expression in transcription, mitochondria, organization, generation of precursor metabolic energy, neutrophil degranulation, vesicle mediated transport, and the basic biological process which are necessary for the cells. The KIK pathway enrichment plot using the 969 proteins found to be significant in t-test shows these differentially expressed proteins are involved in wide range of pathways, including ribosome metabolic pathways, TCA cycle, pyruvate metabolism, thyroid hormone synthesis, RNA transport. A wide range of pathways are significantly altered in case of NFPA compared to the control, and most number of proteins which are altered are found to be of metabolic pathways. After reactive analysis, top regulated and top down regulated pathways were found. Among the top upregulated pathways, a majority of them were found to be associated with cholesterol biosynthesis and using cholesterol synthesis of steroid hormones. The notch, pre-notch expression and processing pathway were also found. Beside that, MET receptor activation signaling by MST1 and the adherence junction interaction, cell-cell junction organization proteins are also present. Among the top downregulated pathways, metabolism of steroid, iron uptake, transport, vitamin B5 metabolism found to be significantly downregulated. Beside that, the transcription of different genes are also found to be lower. Based on the reactome, the electron transfer from NADPH to pyridoxine was found to be the top upregulated one, and it is involved in biosynthesis of iodine sulfur cluster associated with processing of cholesterol to generate steroid hormone. It contains total 3 genes, among which FTXR and FTX1 is found to be upregulated. And this FTXR is also part of defective CYP11A1, which causes AIC, SR, and pregnenolone biosynthesis. And all of these pathways are associated with steroid hormone biosynthesis. But in normal condition, steroid hormone biosynthesis does not occur in pituitary, but their synthesis is pituitary hormone dependent. Apart from that, pre-notch expression and processing also found to be upregulated. These notch pathways are involved in cell proliferation, differentiation, and survival. This abnormal upregulation of notch signaling is found in several cancer cell types. Previous microarray analysis of NFPA versus control sample also identified this notch pathway and proposed they can be a possible therapeutic target for NFPA. The MET receptor activation also is significantly upregulated here, and this is a tyrosine kinase receptor associated with proliferation and survival and migration, and this MET pathway is associated with emergency and metastasis. It also a target for cancer therapy. Its prevalence is found in case of glioblastoma, gastric lung cancer, colorectal cancer. So it also has a possibility to be a therapeutic target for NFPA. The signaling by MST1 also found to be upregulated one in case of NFPA. This MST1 is a member of MET proto-oncogene family, and MST1 and ROS pathway have role in tumorigenesis. This ROS, downstream of this ROS, have a role in cell proliferation, migration, and other aspects of tumorigenesis, and is also a potential therapeutic target for multiple cancers. Based on the analysis, the growth hormone found to be significantly downregulated in non-functional pituitary adenoma. Besides that, other anterior pituitary hormone like luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, TSH, ACTH, and the posterior pituitary hormone ADH was also found to be significantly lower in NFPA samples. The YRTC domain containing protein elongation factor like GDPS1 are the most upregulated proteins. Total 141 pathways found to be significantly enriched based on the string analysis, and this NFPA affects a wide range of basic biological process, starting from neutrophil degranulation, vesicle mediated transport, translation, RNA metabolism, extracellular matrix organization. Pathways related to steroid biosynthesis found to be significantly upregulated. Besides that, the notch pathway MET receptor activation, MST1 signaling, which have a role in tumorigenesis, found to be significantly upregulated and can be a possible therapeutic target for non-functional pituitary adenoma. These are some of the references used for the analysis.
All right, Sataduru, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I think it was presentation done with a lot of good interest, and I could see a lot of efforts put in for literature review to begin with, and as well as good data interpretation, different softwares being used, including CAG, Metascape, all that really added good biological understanding. So that's good effort overall. Coming specifically to the questions, I think the data when you analyzed, you showed the heat map and you showed some heterogeneity. And your assumptions were that these are probably going to be, because of heterogeneous nature of the tumor, probably more subtypes. So the kind of heat map which you showed, was that supervised or unsupervised clustering?
Sir, I have just showed the 25, the highest, and it is unsupervised.
No, I think it was supervised clustering because that's where they were all mapped to the either control or to the NFPA, right?
Yes, sir, yes.
If you were to look at more heterogeneity, what could have been nice to do, that you can not do supervised, but let it go unsupervised and see like how many clusters can appear. So that's where when you have this kind of data, you can always play with those as well. And also you can look at even not only top 25, but maybe you can define much larger numbers with some cutoff, right? At least top 50. If not, you can go with some just p value passing everybody. You can take all those protein. So these are the way to decipher how much you can have the heterogeneity in subtypes.
Yes, sir. Actually, there are many pathways which are found, but due to the limitation, I only showed the limited number of pathways. And
you did very well. Pathway, I'm not asking. I'm mainly saying the heterogeneity in terms of the subtypes. That's where heat map could have been done slightly better. Pathway analysis has been done very nicely. I'll come to that. But before that, when you showed the PCA plot, you had red and green colors for control and NFPA. And one of the NFPA patient was actually grouped along with the controls as well.
Yes, sir.
It did not make any observation or comment for that. What could have been possibility?
Actually, when I get the data set, it was total 10 samples, which are termed as anterior and posterior. And one of them was termed as NFPA. So I thought it may be wrong. So I confirmed that should I proceed with anterior and posterior. And so it was confirmed by TA that I should go with control and NFPA only, not with the anterior and posterior. So
irrespective of these confusions, main thing is when you see one patient is getting aligned with another group, right? So when you do the PCA plot, you look at how close they are. So most of your out of 45, 44 were already forming one principal component for the NFPA, but only one was being outlier and going with the controls. So under such circumstance, you should at least cross check or ask more information. What is this individual? Was that individual wrongly diagnosed as an FPA and actually behaves like control? Or do we have any issue with the data? So I think somewhere when you see this kind of pattern, then one need to be critical about how to look at that individual and go back to clinical history of that. Now, just because your time is up already, but just on the biological side, I think you've really done well on the lot of analysis for the protein and pathways and showed interesting trends. Just very quickly, you already told about it, but the Notch and MET, those look like pretty interesting pathways coming up as a part of, highly upregulated from the NFPA. How would you like to take these two pathways forward towards the next set of experiments?
Yes, so using on cell line knocking down of this gene, so that can be analyzed what is the how disease is progresses in the knockdown cell lines.
All right, no, good answer, and I think it was overall very good presentation. So that's all.
Sir, I was another thing, as the control part also contained the sample from the posterior one, and the NFPA from the literature I found that it is mostly associated with the anterior one.
So we can talk separately. And actually, I was thinking that it's actually a project which is still ongoing in the lab. I'll be happy to connect you with a PhD student. And given that you have already done good literature review, you might be able to be part of our team to contribute more in this project. So do write to me separately. We will see how best we can take this discussion forward. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Good. Thank you. And let's move on to the next presenter now. Okay. So next is Shubhanshu Jain, going to talk about global proteomic analysis of cisplatin treated CHA cell versus control sample to decipher the biological alteration. So again, there are different challenging tumors we have. Cervical cancer is one of those. And to study these tumors, people try to look at the cell lines many times. And there are some known targets. And after doing different docking studies, you can predict some potential drugs which could be useful to inhibit the tumor. And therefore, cisplatin has been considered one of those drugs, which is already, I think, quite heavily used in the different clinical experiments. And this experiment is done towards that understanding that how CHA cell treated with cisplatin, what kind of biological alteration you can see in that. So let's hope to hear good understanding from Shubhanshu Jain on that project.
Morning everyone, I'm Shubhanshu Jain, and today I'm going to give a presentation on the topic analysis of cisplatin treated cancer cells versus control sample and to decipher their biological alteration. First, I would like to start with a brief overview of cervical cancer. Cervical cancer develops in a woman's cervix, and almost all cases of cervical cancer are linked to infection with high-risk human papillomavirus. As you can see from this figure, the different stages of cervical cancer. First, the cancer spreads in the nearby area and starts to occupy more space. However, it can also spread outside the region, reflect and freezing. Cervical cancer is the fourth most common cancer in women, and it's an estimated 570,000 women were diagnosed with it, leading to the death of 311,000. As you can see from this graph, poorer areas are more adversely affected by it, especially the region in Africa, South America, and in Asia and countries like India. Symptoms of cervical cancer include bleeding between periods, vaginal discharge, and pelvic pain. Cervical cancer treatment options include surgery, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, or combination of these. Even though hundreds of types of HPV-type virus exist, majority of the cervical cancers are caused by two main types. Currently, there are actually three vaccines which protect against both of these and also provide some protection against other oncogenic HPV types. HPV vaccine works best if administered prior to exposure and therefore are advised to be administered between the age of 9 to 14, as they help prevent other genital cancers as well. As you can see from this graph, in the awareness and availability of such vaccines is low, in low-income countries, they are more adversely effective. Now we'd like to talk about cisplatin. Cisplatin is a platinum-based chemotherapy drug used against various cancer cells. Cisplatin interferes with DNA replication and kills the fastest proliferating cells. The mechanism of its action is as follows. First, the cisplatin molecule enters the cell membrane using transport protein like CCR1. Inside the cell membrane, it undergoes hydrolysis and then is attached to the DNA molecule. If the cell is able to undergo repair mechanism, it gains resistance to it. However, in case the repair mechanism is not possible, the cell undergoes apoptosis. Cisplatin causes DNA separate differently and drives activates apoptosis when repair is proved impossible. To prove the effectiveness of cisplatin in treating cervical cancer, study was conducted where one group was administered cisplatin while the other was taken as a control group. The study reported that in case cisplatin was administered, significantly lower mortality rate was observed, thus proving it effective. Now coming to the project, first raw data from LKMS was obtained, which was then processed using the data from MENCON was then further processed using methadone iodide, and it undergo wetting value normalization, followed by further tests to provide significant protein. These proteins were then added to the reactome pathway analysis to find various different pathways which were in which were expressed differentially in the between the two groups. Further string analysis was also performed to find the correlation between these proteins, followed by literature survey to find few effective pathways which are of importance. First, the metabolite analysis proceeded as follows. The data contained 9 sample files, of which 4 were of control group, whereas 5 were reasonable suspected. The data reported a total of 25% missing values, which were estimated using KNN feature by algorithm. Either with greater than 50% missing values were removed. This number was obtained through optimization between the shape of the graph and the possibility of occupying as many data sets as possible. To normalize it, the data was log transformed to reduce the runtime variation and to obtain a normalized median was performed. Now, after this, the data was likely to be analyzed, but first, correlation between the sample was to be checked. As the correlation between these samples was more than 0.5 in all cases, the data is highly correlated and there is likely no likelihood of being any outliers. To further check this, PGA analysis was performed, and even in this case, the sample lies within the expected region, so signifying no correlation, and PLSDA data also showed similar results. Thus, the data was taken as it is and used for further analysis. VIP plus obtained from PLSDA analysis, so top 15 up and down regulated protein. Most of the protein associated in these are responsible for iron storage and transport, and some of them are involved in the immune activity. Fibrinogen alpha 10, which has a VIP score of more than 8, is the most regulated protein in these cases. Now, T-test was performed with the following parameters. The group variance was taken as equal, p-value threshold of 0.05 and log p-value was 0. After the analysis, a total of 557 significant proteins were obtained. Next, four-chain analysis was performed using the parameter of HC threshold of 2 and direction of comparison for cisplatin treated to control. A total significant upregulated protein of 51 per obtained and significantly downregulated protein of 19 per obtained. To further this, a volcano plot was performed using HC threshold 2 and p-value threshold of 0.05, thus giving a total of 60 significantly upregulated protein and a total 80 significantly downregulated protein, which was then used to find out pathway analysis using reactor. Before a heat map was also generated, so that using the top 25 protein, the top portion shows an upregulated protein in cisplatin treated cell, whereas the lower proteins are downregulated. When the proteins were used in reaction pathway, the yellow line represents the upregulated protein, whereas the bluer line denotes the downregulated protein. The gray areas are protein pathways with no significant variance. Out of all these pathways, 3 were chosen to be of later effect, which were signal transduction, metabolism, and cellular response to chemicals. These pathways will be discussed later in the presentation with more detail. First, I would like to discuss the top 20 pathways which were found within reactor. These pathways show upregulation mainly in RNA and in pathways involving gene transport and binding. These were mainly due to the damage caused by the cisplatin to these regions, and third, the cell upregulated this protein to maintain itself. String analysis also performs similar correlation, as the protein of these 3 pathways were highly correlated and are connected to each other. Finally, coming to the data interpretation part of the presentation, 3 pathways, namely cellular response to threat, telomerase saccharase, and MAP2K and MAPK activation pathways are discussed. in more detail. Cellular response to cells. The ability of cells and tissues to modulate molecular process in response to stress is essential to the maintenance of tissue homeostasis. However, when cisplatin was treated, when cancer cells were treated with cisplatin, a higher in addition to the binding to the DNA, disruption in the heme metabolism as well as other processes was also occurred. This led to further upregulation in protein related to capture and binding, and then transport of the iron molecule from places of accumulation. Increase in the upregulation in protein for higher metabolism, and increase upregulation in RNA molecule to increase the ability to produce new protein, which was also disrupted due to the treatment of cisplatin. Such upregulation of all these markers can be seen as a way that the cancer cell is trying to act against the cisplatin and is trying to gain resistance. Next pathway, selenocysteine synthesis. Selenocysteine is 21st genetically encoded amino acid and is a major form of antioxidant trace elements regular in the human body. With the necrosis disorder, upregulation of this pathway in cancer cells suggests that celium-based protein increase the detoxification process, thus decreasing apoptosis in cancer cells. The protein works via oxidizing the cisplatin molecule, thus rendering it not allowing it to bind to the DNA molecule and stopping the apoptosis process. As also reported in this paper, when the cancer cell was treated with cisplatin, significant cell apoptosis was observed. However, when selenocysteine was introduced, higher cell viability was observed, thus proving that cisplatin resistance is observed in cancer cell in presence of selenocysteine. The next part is MAP2K and MAPK activation. Cisplatin stimulates apoptosis by triggering the extrinsic receptor pathway or the intrinsic mitochondrial pathway. Several signaling pathways including nitrogen-activated protein kinase pathway and nuclear factor pathway are involved in extrinsic and intrinsic apoptosis pathway. It has been reported that MAPK neuroregulation activates the J and K pathway, which in turn increases the apoptosis in cancer. Such cancer cells upregulate the MAPK pathway, which in turn downregulates the J and K pathway. From these upregulation, we can see that the cancer cell is trying to gain resistance to cisplatin. Thus, these can be used as effective biomarkers to see whether the resistance is gained and then use further other alternative medicine for treatment of cellular cancer. To conclude the presentation, by 2005, 758 protein results were obtained from Netherlands. It was then used for statistical analysis using metaboanalysis. Metaboanalysis then generated a filter of 110 significantly up and down regulated proteins within volcanic cells. The protein were then used in reaction to find pathways that are effective due to variation in protein level. Out of the 343 significant pathways, cellular threat to stimuli, selenocysteine synthesis, and MAP2K and MAPK activation pathway were chosen as effective biomarkers to quantify the cisplatin resistance in cellular cancer. These are the references for the presentation. Thank you.
All right, Shubhanshu Jain, are you there?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah. All right, let me set up a timer for you. So yeah, so I think it was a good analysis, good project overall. In terms of understanding for cisplatin, why you think it is important for chemotherapy of cervical cancer?
As discussed, cisplatin actually disrupts the cellular DNA replication process. So it can act as it induces apoptosis in cancer cells selectively since they proliferate much faster. So the cisplatin is accumulated in the cancer cell much more at a much higher rate than normal cells. However, there were reports that it also induces a lot of toxicity in other areas. That's why usage of other drugs or combination of drugs is much more beneficial.
You have to keep in mind this is platinum-based therapy, right? So that should have also given you some clue. Additionally, when you look at the fold change criteria for pathway analysis, I think you use fold change 2, right? Any specific rationale why you chose higher fold change?
No, sir. I just decided to because they were already giving a lot of protein, so I thought a higher criteria would be better for it.
No, that can be good rationale, and if any one of you are doing project, it's entirely your rationale how you choose the criteria, but you have to defend the criteria why you chose that. But in general, I think 1.5 fold up and down is the standard norm, and especially anything which can pass the p-value less than 0.05 with 1.5 up and down. But depending upon if you have really large number of proteins, you want to sort them out, you can use a higher threshold as well. And if you have less number of protein, you can still think about going lower as well. So those things can be subjective. But sometimes the fear is that if you make the too high bar, you are going to miss out some interesting protein from those pathways. Now, from your findings, it's essentially selenocysteine synthesis, right? One of that came as a major interesting pathway. How do you see the role of this pathway towards the therapeutic regime for cervical cancer? If people want to utilize this information from your data and want to use this information for the cervical cancer treatment, in which way this information can be used for therapeutics?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Oh no. So I said that when you are showing, let me just see if I have any interview. When you are saying that different pathways are altered, especially selenocysteine synthesis, what could be the possible role of this pathway towards therapeutic aspect of cervical cancer treatment?
So actually, there were a couple of reports which also suggested that selenocysteine might help in reducing the toxicity of this patient to other areas as well, and it may even help in incorporating higher dosage of cisplatin, since it reduces the overall cisplatin efflux in the cell. So it actually acts as a dual role. If it only it's synthesized within the cancer cell, they can actually detoxify the cisplatin molecule. However, overall increase in the total body may be beneficial in managing some of the side effects. So what it actually does is it acts as the oxidizing agent, and which ends up treating which basically react with the cisplatin, and it doesn't allow it anymore to bind with the DNA molecule. So it acts as the detoxifying agent.
All right, so I think this is good literature review. You have at least read the papers. Main thing is, as a presenter or as a student who's doing a project, if you have a lot of understanding of different pathways, you can always come up with a schematic hypothetical figure yourself that based on the MAP kinases, selenocysteine synthesis, stress regulation, many things which you have identified from your data, how that is totally overall, if you put together in a cytoscape or any kind of other, map pathways maker, then you can show that how you think that, the cisplatin treatment is going to change cervical cancer and what it may have role in therapeutic aspect. So that can actually add some additional value. Overall, I think it was a good project. So that's all for you. Okay, I'll move on to the next student now. Okay, so next is Rahul Kumar. Rahul, I received your presentation very late, and and with great difficulty, I saved it last minute to still make PPT for you. You're going to talk about global proteomic analysis of colon adenocarcinoma as compared to control samples to understand the biological alteration. So again, colorectal cancer is one of the really detrimental cancer which can be quite seen in the northeastern regions, very high. Of course, Japan has the highest incidence, but in India also, Mizoram and Aizawl and different parts of northeast countries are really show higher incidence of this tumor, but overall it is quite prevalent and quite deadly tumor. So it's important to study this in detail, and let's see what Rahul adds understanding of this particular tumor.
Hello everyone, my name is Rahul Kumar. I'm a PhD student of Department of Chemical Engineering. And today I'm going to present here my topic, that is global proteomic analysis of colon adenocarcinoma versus colon adenocarcinoma control samples to decipher the biological alterations. So before we go into the deep analysis, we must know that what colon adenocarcinoma is. So basically, adenocarcinoma is the colon carcinoma, basically. So it occurs in the lower digestive tracts, that precisely we can say the colon and rectums. So basically, that's why it is called colorectal cancers. So in the colorectal cancers, the most common type of colorectal cancer is adenocarcinoma. So this adenocarcinoma is made of two terms, that is adeno and carcinoma. So adeno means the glands. So here you can see the gland. So adeno means the gland, and carcinoma means it is a cancer type that is mainly occur on the epithelial cells. So the colon adenocarcinoma basically develops in the cells of lining inside the large intestine that forms gland, making mucus to lubricate inside of the colon and rectum. So any biological alteration in the large intestinal cells or lining of the cells, so basically leading to the formation of polyp, that is benign tumor, and this proliferate and differentiate into the carcinoma, that is malignant tumor. And this carcinoma is a type of cancer. So it establishes the cancer and proliferate in the cancer disease. So there are the four stages of this colorectal cancer. In the first stage, the cancer has invaded the submucosa, and then in the second stage, it invades nearby tissue and organs. And in the third stage, it spreads nearby lymph node, and in the fourth stage, it escapes from one location and enters the bloodstream and reaches to the other organ and tissues and infects and proliferate there. So if you see the colon cancer cases arising in various family risk settings, so we can see here the sporadic cases are major contributor to the cases arising. So the basic and the fundamental cause of this sporadic cases, the cancers, is basically caused by the alteration in the gene, that is basically tumor suppressor genes and oncogenes, and these genes alteration will lead to the sporadic rising in sporadic cases, and there are 10 to 30% cases with the familial risk. These cases are arises due to the alteration or defects in the hereditary genes, or you can say the mutation in the hereditary genes, which passes from one generation to another. So it is kind of hereditary cancers, hereditary genes cancers that contribute to 10 to 30%. And there are some defects in the gene, that is mismatch repair systems. So these enzyme defects in these genes will lead to the formation of Lynch syndrome, and this Lynch syndrome is a hereditary syndrome, and it is also called hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancer, and it contributes 2 to 3% of the rising cancer cases. And there are the less cases are reported here. There is a familial adenomatous and also hermomatous polyp syndromes. This contributes approximately 0.1 to less than 1%. And if you see the diagnosis of the colorectal cancer, so diagnosis at the early stage is not very common or not detectable. It can only detect in a middle age. You can say the colorectal cancer is most frequently diagnosed among the people are aged 65 to 74, or you can say precisely the middle age of the diagnosis is 67. So here you can say the percentage of the diagnosis is very poor in the early stage, but if you see here in the later stage, the diagnosis percentage is very high. So the age group of 65 to 74 is the most frequently diagnosed age. And if you see the 5-year survival rate of the colorectal cancer, so we can see here the first stage 90% as a survival rate, but if you go further stages, it will decrease drastically. And if you say that the fourth stage or last stage, the survival rate is around 20% only. So it is very deadly. So here we can conclude that all the biological alteration in the genes, like tumor suppressor genes or alteration in the mismatch repair, and several other genes which are altered or mutated, that can cause colon cancer or any type of cancer. So to decipher these biological alterations, like what gene causing what, so researcher has to analyze those through the proteomic analysis. The proteomic analysis gives a platform to analyze these kind of perturbations in the biological systems. So to analyze these data, researchers have performed this analysis of normal and tumor samples from different individuals, and these data were analyzed through different equipment like mass spectrometer, and this raw file generated through the mass spectrometer were analyzed through the MassConc, and that MassConc file was given to me. So now I have analyzed this file through different softwares like MetaboAnalysis, UniProt, and Reactome, in which I have got several genes which are upregulated and downregulated genes, and those genes I have mapped through UniProt platform, and I got the name of the genes which are significantly upregulated and downregulated, and those genes I have mapped through the pathway analysis through the Reactome platform. So I got some different altered pathways that are more significant in the colon cancer. So we will see one by one. So to identify differential expressed protein, I have used MetaboAnalyst. So I have got the data file that contains 16 samples, 8 normal and 8 tumor samples were there, and in which 5,415 peaks were there in the data matrix, and data was the samples were unpaired, and data contains 23.1% missing values. So what are the missing values? The missing values basically are the values that are not present in the Excel sheet. So which are caused due to very less peak intensity, which are not covered through the data. So these kind of missing values are imputed first. So the workflow, like we have to first imputate the missing value. So I have done the missing value imputation by 30%. So I have cut off the 30% missing values, and rest of the 70 value were analyzed. And these missing value imputation I have done through KNN features that picks the protein that are nearby distances. So the data was the missing value imputed data were normalized. So to avoid the run-to-run variation, the data were normalized and log transformed, and this processed data is used for the statistical analysis. So in the statistical analysis, there are several kinds of statistical analysis like PCA, principal component analysis, fold channel analysis, t-test, Volkanov pattern correlation, now. So we will see the one by one. So for the normalization and log transformation, basically normalization is basically due to because the instrument calibration leads to the run-to-run variation in the samples. So sample analysis. So to overcome this run-to-run variation, we have to normalize the data. So I have normalized the data by the sample median and log transform, generalized log transform, and this is the sample view of normalized and log transform data. So I have performed this serial analysis. And first I have performed a principal component analysis. This shows there are no outliers are there, and there is a 60% variation are there in the data. And after this, I have performed the fold change and t-test analysis. This gives the significant upregulated and downregulated protein through different parameters. So I have performed first fold chain analysis with the threshold 2 value. So this gives me 365 significantly downregulated proteins, 439 significantly upregulated proteins, and 36 to 14 non-significant proteins. But in the t-test analysis, I have set up this threshold value, that is 0.05 p-value, and perform unequal group variance, and this gave me 970 significant proteins and 2,448 non-significant proteins. This is one of the most important analysis, that is volcano plot analysis, and this plot consists of two analysis that I have done previously, that is t-test and fold chain analysis. And the parameters that I have set earlier for the fold chain and t-test were the same for the volcano plot, that is unequal group variation with variance with 0.05 p-value threshold, and fold chain threshold is 2. So from these parameters, I got 262 significantly down regulated protein and 220 significantly up regulated protein. And through this, I got top 50 proteins that are very significantly altered. So I got significant top 50 proteins, and here I have done correlation and VIP score analysis. In this correlation matrix, you can see the values from 0.5 to 1. So the value greater than 0.5, that implies that the protein is highly correlated. So except from these two dark blue color background, all the proteins are highly correlated. And I have also done the VIP score analysis. This shows that the individual variable contribution to the model. So the dark red, that means the highly contributing to that variable is highly contributing to that model. So the VIP score greater than 1, that shows that variable contributes more than average and results in the 50% of the variable selection. That's how I got 50 feature identified proteins by volcano plot. And out of these proteins, I have selected top 5 significant proteins, and these significant top 5 proteins I have mapped to this UniProt platform. This UniProt platform gave me the name of these proteins, which are named as Serpin B5, that is also called muspin, and nicotinamide N-methyltransferase, and lysozyme C, ATP synthase coupling factor 6. So these are the our 5 top regulated proteins, and the top 50 proteins that I got from volcano plot, I have used for the further reactome analysis. So I used those 50 proteins and got top significant pathways, that is neutrophil degranulation pathway, extracellular matrix organization, and response to elevated platelet cytosolic calcium, and interleukin 4 and interleukin 13 signaling, and innate immune system. So these are the 5 major pathways that are very highly significantly regulated or dysregulated. So I have also done the GSEA analysis, and in this the left side, right side of the graph represent that p-value, where the higher p-value the most significant pathway, and the red line represent the p-value 0.05, and the blue line represent the p-value, that is 0.01. And through the reactome analysis, I got different pathways that are top regulated pathways or top significant pathways. And if you see these pathways, there are the yellow lines are there. So those pathways which having the yellow line are passed with our p-value, and that are more significant pathways. So here the immune system pathway and the pathway that are linked to the metabolism, the pathways are linked to the extracellular matrix organization, and the pathways that are vesicle mediated transport are basically top significant pathway ever. So from these pathway, alteration of these pathway causes the basically. So there are some reported evidences that show the down regulation of serpin B5 identified in CA suppressed lower cell line, and further significant positive correlation between serpin B5 and CA level were also found in the human CRP cell line. And also the nicotinamide N-methyltransferase expression in colorectal cancer indicate the poor survival outcomes in the patient with early stage colorectal cancer. That is the stage 1 and 2, and in patients who undergo the chemotherapy. So what NNMT does, basically it reduces the ROS species formation, and this leads to the inactivation of MAPK pathway, and this MAPK pathway inactivation will lead to the reduction in the inactivation of the apoptosis. That is sign of the progression of the cancer. So, and one of the genes that I have identified, that is lysozyme, that is also reported as a major secretory product of the human colon carcinoma cell lines. So, if you see our pathway that I have found, that is neutrophil degranulation. This neutrophil degranulation releases the neutrophil granules, that is in which this is one of the neutrophil granule, that is neutrophil collagenase, and this neutrophil granule accumulates and causes damage and results in the colorectal cancer. And also in the patients with the colorectal cancer, high serum neutrophil collagenase level are found to be increased in malignancy. And also there is a soft factor 1 that is very highly expressed in the colon adenocarcinoma patient, and detection of this HSF1 dependent proteomic ECM signature in the human colorectal cancer establishes the relevance to the human disease. And his factor 1 dependent ECM remodeling plays a crucial role in modeling inflammation driven colon cancer. So here we can conclude that the downregulation of tumor suppressor gene, that is serpin B5, promotes progression of colon cancer, and pathway analysis shows that the gene linked to the metabolism and immune system found dysregulated in the colorectal cancer, and dysregulation of neutrophil degranulation pathway due to the accumulation of granules such as MMP8 and damages colon epithelium, results in the colorectal adenocarcinoma. So, other references.
All right, Rahul Kumar, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, I think it was overall a good project on the colon adenocarcinoma. Can we see you where you are? I can't.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm turning on the camera.
Yeah, so in terms of keep listening question and while you're getting connected. So regarding the pathway analysis, what was your input list? What number of proteins you gave for input list?
Sir, I have give the protein 50 proteins for the input and the gene analysis, pathway analysis.
What happened? You are unable to share a video, or?
Sir, I have shared video. I have on the camera.
For some reason we can't see you.
Sir.
Continue on the discussion. So, see, main thing is that the pathway which you identified. So while let me first start on a little positive note for you. While your presentation came a little late, but while watching the video, I can see that you have made good effort of making very polished presentation. Your slides were well made, as well as overall effort to speak and practice probably was quite good. In terms of the workflow of the project, data analysis, everything was done nicely. But where you missed out a little bit was essentially the pathway analysis part.
Yes.
When you make the cutoff of fold change 2, and then further you pick up only the top 50 protein from that, and then you give that as a input list for the pathways, you are restricting actually to understand the biology of it, because you're only looking at the top changes. And that's where you found only some, very generic pathway like neutrophil, innate metabolism, interleukin, all of those are very generic. They does not specifically reflect anything for colon adenocarcinoma. So what you should do again to look into the much bigger list of the protein, which are all significant, p-value 0.05, cutoff 1.5 fold, entire list subject to GSE analysis, and then find out that what are all the pathways, and then you will see a very different list of pathways will emerge.
Yes.
Because that will actually reflect more towards the colorectal cancer and colon adenocarcinoma biology, because what you have actually picked up has slightly got diluted because it is not best pathways. So that was one of the lacking aspect in the analysis. Coming to your top list of the protein, that I'm hoping it still will be valid. So Serpin B5 was one of the protein which was highly upregulated. What is your understanding about this protein? Why you think this is important?
So basically, Serpin B5 protein is reported to have highly expressed in the colon cancer, and because as it having some.
Your voice is breaking. Please repeat.
Hello.
Yes, please repeat. I could not hear you.
Yes, sir. So Serpin B5 protein is basically a tumor suppressor gene. So tumor suppression protein. So it blocks the growth, and as well as it also participate in the ECM part of the cell. So basically, the pathway is not very well elucidated. So the researchers have came across that it is also interact with the integrin, so that it can reduce the migration of the tumor and leads to the separation of this particular migration and tumor formation and tumor growth.
Based on your project analysis, if you were to choose some therapeutic strategies towards treatment of colon adenocarcinoma, what can be your suggestions?
Sir, I will first develop through serological techniques to analyze as a biomarker of this Serpin B5 protein. So then I can make a docking so that I can make a therapeutic target for the treatment of this colon cancer.
Of course, this is a very broad question which will require a lot of thoughts and efforts. But think a little broadly. I think just developing serological test only give you more diagnostic ability. It will not have therapeutic ability. For therapeutic ability, you have to do more of the patient-derived cells and look at potential drugs which can bind, and then think about next steps forward over there.
Yes, sir.
So that's all for you. So overall, I think it was good effort made. Let me now move to the last presenter who is actually absent, but in case he shows up. Puli Rahul, are you there by any chance? I have not heard back from you. I heard from TA that probably you're unwell. The topic assigned to you was paclitaxel treated with CIHA cell versus control comparison. If you are there, if you want to make presentation live, also we can give you opportunity. If not, we have already exceeded the time for the class, so we will close the presentations today. I hope all of you are able to follow the assignments and finish the assignments on time. Please do take assignment and presentation not only as a activity for your grades and marks, but think a little bit long term. If you are intended to be serious researchers or senior, serious scientists, or want to develop your career in the field of research and science, making good presentations in the timely manner, as well as improving your writing ability, all of that is going to pay you much beyond just simply getting some grades and marks. So idea was not only to give you some fundamentals of proteomics, but also to make you think that how you can do a project, how you can present a project, and how you can write some comments for your peers while watching their presentations. So all of that in the long term will give you much bigger experience as compared to just, learning about 5 techniques and writing questions from that. I hope you're enjoying the experience of learning, and we'll continue, have more presentation next week. Thank you very much, everyone.